Have you ever pulled up your garlic at the end of the season, only to find sad, tiny bulbs that look more like large peas than actual garlic? What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about feeding garlic is completely wrong? Today, we are talking about how to grow garlic the size of your fist. And here is the craziest part. We are going to do it without a single drop of chemical fertilizer. That is right. No expensive powders, no artificial liquids. There is just one bizarre spring secret that experienced gardeners keep totally quiet about. Most people think you need to pump the soil full of chemicals to get giant vegetables. But the truth is exactly the opposite. In this video, I am going to reveal the exact step-by-step natural method to force your garlic to explode in size. I promise you by the end of this video, you will look at your garden in a completely new way. So tell me in the comments right now, do you usually buy fertilizers for your garden, or do you try to grow things naturally? Let us settle this debate once and for all. To understand this secret, we need to take a quick step back in time. For thousands of years, our ancestors grew massive, healthy crops long before chemical companies even existed. Garlic is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history. It originated in Central Asia, growing wild in harsh, rocky soils. It evolved to survive freezing winters and hot summers without any human intervention. In modern times, aggressive marketing has convinced us that soil is dead and needs artificial life support in the form of synthetic fertilizers. We have been trained to buy bags of nitrogen and phosphorus just to get a decent harvest. But these chemicals actually disrupt the natural web of life in the soil. They kill beneficial microbes and make plants lazy. When we return to the historical, natural way of growing, we tap into the plant's true genetic potential. The secret we are discussing today is based on ancient agricultural practices combined with modern botanical science. It is all about working with the natural cycle of the spring season, rather than fighting against it with chemicals. Let us start by busting a massive myth that has been pushed by garden centres for decades. You absolutely do not need expensive synthetic fertilizers to grow huge garlic. In fact, relying on chemical nitrogen in the spring can actually ruin your harvest. Here is a perfect example to illustrate this point. Imagine going to a garden store. The shelves are lined with brightly coloured bottles, promising giant vegetables overnight. It is very tempting. But when you pump garlic full of artificial nitrogen in the early spring, the plant gets confused. It throws all of its energy into growing massive dark green leaves. The plant looks incredibly healthy above the ground. You might even brag to your neighbours about how tall your garlic is getting. But beneath the surface, a disaster is happening. The bulb, which is the part you actually want to eat, stops developing. It stays tiny because the plant thinks it only needs to grow leaves. By skipping the chemical fertilizers, you force the garlic to balance its growth naturally. We are going to replace those chemicals with something completely free and completely natural. This approach saves you money and gives you a much healthier, tastier final product that stores for months longer. To understand why this secret works, we need to look at what your garlic is actually doing when the snow melts. Garlic has a very specific biological clock. During the winter, it sleeps. It develops a strong root system under the cold ground, gathering resources like a squirrel hoarding nuts. When spring arrives and the soil begins to warm up, the plant switches gears. It shifts from survival mode into aggressive growth mode. But here is the catch. The roots can only absorb nutrients if the soil conditions are absolutely perfect. Think of the garlic roots like a living sponge. If the sponge is squeezed tight by heavy, compacted winter soil, it cannot absorb water or food. Many gardeners see the first green shoots and immediately start dumping fertilizer on top of the hard dirt. The roots cannot even reach it. The fertilizer just washes away in the spring rain, wasting your money. The real trick is preparing the environment so the plant can feed itself from the rich, organic matter already present in the earth. Our secret spring method focuses entirely on unlocking the soil, not adding artificial chemicals to it. We must wake the roots up gently. So, what is the biggest mistake people make in early spring? It all comes down to mulch. Mulch is fantastic for the winter. It acts like a thick, warm blanket that protects the garlic cloves from freezing to death. But when spring arrives, that same blanket becomes a deadly trap. Imagine trying to run a marathon while wearing a heavy winter coat. You would overheat and collapse. That is exactly what happens to your garlic. As the sun starts warming the air, the thick layer of wet winter mulch traps freezing moisture against the soil. It blocks the sun from heating the earth. The soil stays cold and soggy, which is the perfect recipe for fungal diseases. The roots start to rot before they even get a chance to grow. The very first step of our secret method is to carefully remove that heavy winter blanket. You must pull back the thick layers of straw or leaves as soon as the danger of severe, deep freezing has passed. Exposing the dark soil to the spring sun acts like a giant solar panel. It heats the earth rapidly, sending a powerful wake-up signal directly down to the bulb. This simple act alone can double the speed of early spring growth. Now we arrive at the core of the secret, the one thing that old-school gardeners do that nobody talks about. It is a technique called unearthing the neck. It sounds strange, but it is incredibly powerful. As the garlic plant grows in the spring, the base of the stem, where it meets the bulb, expands. Most people just leave the soil piled high around the stem, exactly as it was planted in the fall. But garlic bulbs expand outward, and they need physical space to do so. Heavy, wet spring soil acts like a concrete corset around the bulb. It literally squeezes the bulb and prevents it from growing wide. Here is the illustration. Imagine blowing up a balloon inside a small cardboard box. The balloon can only get as big as the box allows. By carefully pulling the soil away from the very base of the stem, right where it meets the ground, you remove that physical barrier. You are giving the bulb the freedom to swell. You use your fingers to gently scrape the top half-inch of soil away from the plant. You want to expose just the very top shoulder of the bulb to the fresh air and sunlight. This is the ultimate game changer. Why does exposing the top of the bulb work so well? It is not just about physical space. It is actually about oxygen. Garlic bulbs require a massive amount of oxygen to grow to the size of a fist. When the bulb is buried deep under compacted, wet spring soil, it slowly suffocates. It survives, but it does not thrive. By pulling that little bit of soil away from the neck of the plant, you are opening up an oxygen highway directly to the bulb. Think of it like taking a tight collar off a dog. Suddenly, the plant can breathe deeply. The oxygen interacts with the natural biology of the plant, stimulating massive cell division within the cloves. Furthermore, allowing the spring sunlight to hit the very top of the bulb helps harden the protective outer skins early on. This prevents soil-borne diseases from penetrating the garlic. This simple, free action of moving a tiny bit of dirt does more for the size of your garlic than an entire bag of expensive chemical fertilizer. It is a mechanical solution to a biological problem, and it works absolutely perfectly every single time you do it. Timing is everything when it comes to this secret. You cannot just run out in the middle of winter and uncover your garlic. If you do it too early, a late frost could damage the exposed bulb. If you do it too late, the bulb has already finished its main growth phase, and the trick will not work. So how do you know the exact right moment? You have to learn to read the plant. Do not look at the calendar, look at the leaves. The perfect time to unearth the neck of the garlic is when the plant has produced exactly 4 to 5 strong green leaves. This usually happens in mid-spring, depending on where you live. At this stage, the plant has established a massive root system and is just beginning to focus its energy on swelling the bulb underground. It is like waiting for a traffic light to turn green. When you see those 4 or 5 solid leaves, that is your green light. The soil has warmed up enough, the roots are pumping water, and the plant is begging for room to expand. Go out on a dry, sunny afternoon and gently pull the soil back. The timing of this action is the difference between small garlic and giant garlic. Let us talk about exactly how to perform this soil removal safely, because it is easy to make a fatal mistake here. The roots of the garlic plant are very shallow and incredibly fragile. If you take a metal hoe or a heavy garden trowel and start aggressively digging around the base of the plant, You will slice right through those delicate roots. If you cut the roots in spring, the bulb will stop growing instantly. You will have ruined the harvest. The only tool you should use for this secret technique is your own 2 hands. Think of it like performing delicate surgery. Get down on your knees and use your fingertips to gently brush the soil away from the stem. Work in a circular motion, moving the dirt about 2 inches away from the plant. You only want to go down maybe half an inch, just enough to see where the stem starts to widen into the bulb. If you feel resistance, stop. Do not pull or tug on the plant. By doing this entirely by hand, you guarantee that not a single root is damaged. It takes a little more time, but the reward is fist-sized garlic. Now that we have given the bulb room to breathe and expand, we need to talk about food. I promise no chemical fertilizers, but the plant still needs nutrition. Since we are not using artificial nitrogen, what is the secret to feeding the bulb naturally? The answer is pure, natural wood ash. Wood ash is the ultimate secret weapon of organic gardeners. It is incredibly rich in potassium, calcium, and essential trace minerals. While nitrogen grows leaves, potassium is the specific nutrient that makes root crops and bulbs grow huge. Think of wood ash as a natural steroid for garlic bulbs. But you cannot just use any ash. It must be pure wood ash from hardwood trees like oak, apple, or maple. Never use ash from charcoal briquettes, treated lumber, or trash fires. Those contain toxic chemicals that will poison your soil and your food. Pure wood ash from a winter fireplace or a clean campfire is literally garden gold. It provides exactly what the garlic needs at the exact moment it needs it, without throwing the plant's natural hormones out of balance. Best of all, it is completely free. You cannot simply dump dry ashes all over the garden and expect magic. If you put dry ash directly against the stem of the garlic, it can actually burn the plant. The most effective way to deliver this natural power boost is by making an organic spring infusion. We call it ash tea. Here is the exact recipe for success. Take 1 standard cup of pure, sifted wood ash. Pour it into a large bucket that holds about 10 litres of water. Fill the bucket with rainwater, or well water if possible. Tap water has chlorine, which can harm soil microbes. Stir the mixture vigorously with a wooden stick. Now here is the important part. You must let this mixture steep for at least 2 days. Think of it like brewing a giant pot of herbal tea for your garden. Over those 48 hours, the water dissolves the potassium and calcium out of the ash, turning the liquid into a highly potent, fast-acting natural nutrient drink. By dissolving the minerals in water, you ensure that the garlic roots can drink them up immediately, rather than waiting weeks for dry ash to break down in the soil. Once your ash tea has steeped for 2 days, it is time to apply it. But again, technique is critical. Do not pour this liquid directly over the leaves of the garlic. The leaves do not need it, and the high mineral content leaves a dusty film that blocks sunlight. You want to deliver this magic potion directly to the root zone. Remember that we just cleared the soil away from the neck of the bulb. You do not want to pour the water right on the exposed bulb either. Instead, you water the space between the rows of garlic. Pour the liquid carefully onto the soil about 4 to 6 inches away from the base of the plants. The water will soak deep into the earth, and the extensive root system of the garlic will reach out and pull the nutrients in. Imagine serving a drink in a glass rather than throwing it in someone's face. You are putting the food exactly where the feeding roots are located. Apply this ash tea just once in the mid-spring, about a week after you have uncovered the bulbs. This single application of liquid potassium will kickstart an explosion of underground growth. While we are talking about liquids, we absolutely must discuss normal watering. Spring weather can be tricky. Sometimes it rains every day, and sometimes it is completely dry. Garlic is a strange plant when it comes to water. It needs consistent moisture to grow those big leaves in early spring, but it absolutely hates sitting in mud. If the soil stays soaking wet for too long, the bulb will literally rot away before it ever gets a chance to grow. This is why drainage is so important. A great way to check if your garlic needs water is to use the finger test. Do not just look at the surface of the soil. Because the sun dries the top layer very quickly, stick your index finger about 2 inches deep into the soil. If it feels cool and damp, do not water. Walk away. If it feels completely dry at your fingertip, give the plants a deep soak. Think of baking a cake and checking the center with a wooden toothpick. You have to check beneath the surface. Consistent, moderate watering keeps the roots healthy, but overwatering is the fastest way to destroy all your hard work. As we move into late spring, your garlic plant is going to try to play a trick on you. If you are growing hard-necked garlic, it will suddenly send up a curly green stalk from the very center of the plant. This stalk is called a scape. Many beginners think this is a sign of a healthy plant getting ready to flower. While that is biologically true, it is the worst possible thing for your garlic harvest. The scape is the plant's attempt to reproduce by making seeds at the top of the stalk. Creating those seeds requires a massive amount of energy. If you leave the scape on the plant, the garlic will stop sending energy down to the bulb and send it all up to the flower instead. The bulb will instantly stop growing. It is like having a massive leak in a water pipe. All the pressure is going to the wrong place. To get fist-sized garlic, you must intercept this process. You have to stop the plant from flowering so it redirects all of its power back down into the ground. Dealing with the scapes is a non-negotiable part of our spring secret. Removing the scapes is easy, but you have to do it at the right time and in the right way. Do not cut the scape the second you see it peeking out of the leaves. Wait until the scape grows long enough to form one complete loop or curl. It will look like a green pig's tail. That is the perfect moment. Now, how do you remove it? Do not pull it straight up. If you yank the scape, you can easily pull the entire garlic plant right out of the soil, ruining it completely. The best method is to simply snap it off with your fingers, right where it emerges from the top leaves. Or you can take a clean pair of garden scissors and cut it cleanly. Think of it like cutting a bad wire to stop a bomb in a movie. You want a clean, quick cut. By removing this energy thief, you literally force the plant to push all of its remaining strength into the underground bulb. Within days of removing the scapes, you will notice the base of the plant noticeably thickening. This is the final push toward giant garlic. By the way, do not throw those removed scapes into the compost bin. One of the best parts of growing hard-necked garlic is that the scapes are totally edible and incredibly delicious. This is zero waste gardening at its finest. The scapes taste like a mild, sweet version of garlic. You can chop them up and fry them with butter, mix them into scrambled eggs, or blend them with olive oil and nuts to make an amazing garlic scape pesto. But even if you do not want to eat them, they have a secret garden use. You can take a handful of chopped scapes, put them in a blender with water, and strain the liquid. This creates a highly potent, all-natural bug repellent. You can spray this garlic water on your other vegetable plants, like tomatoes or cabbage, to keep harmful insects away. Bugs absolutely hate the smell of raw garlic sulfur. So by removing the scapes, you are not only ensuring fist-sized garlic bulbs, but you are also getting a free gourmet meal and a free organic pesticide. It is a win for every part of your garden. Let us talk about a secret defense mechanism that will help your garlic grow huge without interference. Garlic hates competition. Because its root system is so shallow, any weeds growing nearby will instantly steal water and nutrients. But instead of just fighting weeds all spring, you can use companion planting to help your garlic thrive. Certain plants act like bodyguards for your garlic. For example, planting strawberries near your garlic is a fantastic historical trick. The strawberry plants create a living mulch over the soil, keeping the ground cool and preventing weeds from sprouting. Meanwhile, the strong smell of the garlic protects the strawberries from pests. Another amazing companion is chamomile. Planting a little bit of chamomile near your garlic actually improves the flavour and the health of the garlic bulb. It is like having a good neighbour who watches your house while you are on vacation. By pairing garlic with the right friends, you create a natural ecosystem that does the hard work for you. The plants support each other, totally eliminating the need for chemical weed killers. Even with companion plants, a few weeds will inevitably pop up right next to your garlic stems. How you handle these weeds is critical. If you grab a sharp metal hoe and start chopping away at the weeds near the garlic, you're going to slice the garlic roots. Remember, those roots are just below the surface. If you damage them now, the bulb will stop growing. When dealing with weeds close to the garlic plant, you must use your hands. Gently grasp the weed at the base and pull it slowly straight up, making sure not to disturb the soil around the garlic. Think of it like carefully untangling a set of fragile headphones. You cannot just rip them apart or they will break. If a weed is deeply rooted right next to the garlic stem, do not pull it. Just take scissors and cut the weed off at the soil line. The root of the weed will die in the ground without disturbing your precious garlic. This gentle approach ensures that 100% of the soil's energy goes straight into your garlic crop. As spring turns into early summer, your garlic will start communicating with you. You just need to know how to listen. The leaves of the plant are like a dashboard on a car. They tell you exactly what is happening under the hood. Eventually, you will notice the tips of the bottom leaves starting to turn yellow and brown. Many beginners panic when they see this, thinking the plant is dying from a disease. They rush to add water or fertilizer. Do not do this. The yellowing of the bottom leaves is a perfectly natural part of the life cycle. It means the plant is finishing its growth and starting to transfer all the energy from the leaves down into the bulb to form the papery skins. If you add nitrogen fertilizer at this stage, you will confuse the plant and ruin the bulb's ability to store over the winter. When you see the bottom 2 or 3 leaves turn brown, it is a cause for celebration. It means your secret spring techniques have worked and the plant is preparing to deliver your massive harvest. This brings us to the final, most crucial step before harvest. It is a technique known as the pre-harvest drought. About 2 to 3 weeks before you plan to pull the garlic out of the ground, you must stop watering entirely. Do not give it a single drop. If it rains, you cannot help that. But absolutely do not use your hose or watering can. Why do we do this? Because if the soil is wet when the garlic is finishing its life cycle, the protective outer skins of the bulb will rot away in the dirt. Without those dry, papery skins, the garlic will spoil within weeks of being harvested. By forcing a dry period, the soil pulls moisture out of the outer layers of the garlic. This causes the bulb to shrink slightly and wrap itself tightly in those tough, protective layers. Think of it like packing your bags tightly before a long trip. The dry period ensures that the massive, fist-sized bulbs you just spent all spring growing will actually last in your pantry for 6 to 8 months without rotting. When the bottom 3 to 4 leaves are completely brown and the top leaves are still green, it is the moment of truth. Harvest day. Do not just grab the stem and yank the garlic out of the ground. The stem might snap, leaving your giant bulb buried in the dirt. Instead, take a garden fork or a shovel and push it into the soil about 6 inches away from the plant. Gently pry the soil upward to loosen the roots. Then, hold the stem and lift the bulb out of the loose earth. When you pull that garlic out and brush the dirt away, you are going to be amazed. Because you cleared the neck in the spring, gave it an ash tea boost, removed the scapes and managed the water perfectly, you will be holding a bulb of garlic the size of a baseball or a fist. The cloves will be huge, juicy, and packed with incredible intense flavour that no store-bought garlic can ever match. And you did it all by working with nature, not against it. Let us quickly review the entire natural cycle to make sure you have the perfect plan. As soon as the deep freezes end, remove the heavy winter mulch so the soil can warm up. When the plant has 4 strong leaves, gently pull the soil away from the neck of the bulb to give it room to swell and breathe. A week later, brew your natural wood ash tea and water it directly into the root zone to provide a massive hit of potassium. When the curly scapes appear, snap them off immediately to redirect the plant's energy downward. Keep weeds away by hand pulling only, and let companion plants help you out. Finally, stop watering completely 2 weeks before harvest to cure the skins. This is not magic. It is just smart, historical gardening. By respecting the biology of the plant, you unlock its true potential. You save money on chemicals, you protect your local environment, and you get to enjoy the absolute best tasting garlic you have ever had in your life. And there you have it. The moment you pull that massive fist-sized garlic out of the earth, you will realize that everything you needed was already right there in your garden. We took a plant that was suffocating under heavy spring soil, gave it room to breathe, fed it with natural wood ash, and redirected its energy by snapping off those tricky scapes. The result is an explosive organic harvest that puts chemical-fed plants to shame. You have saved money, protected your soil, and grown food that will last in your kitchen all winter long. Thank you so much for watching and learning these forgotten gardening secrets with me today. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button right now and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another organic gardening hack. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the biggest challenge you have ever faced when growing garlic in your own garden? Drop your story in the comments below and let us get a great discussion going.